All right, and we're recording. So today's guest is Rich Brown of the American Warrior Society, and he also does a lot of instruction alongside of Mike Seeklander with his instructor development course. Um, Very interesting podcast that he has going on. I'm a member of the American Warrior Society. I'm coin number 1751. I joke sometimes. I say I should have waited for 25 more people to sign up. But Rich, thanks a bunch for coming on today, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother. It's quite an honor to be on your show.
Yeah, so Rich, uh, his curriculum, I still haven't made it out to you yet, but I really, really want to. And I'm really interested in training under you and Mike Seeklander because you're both Marine Corps veterans. You're both competitive shooters. And if I'm not mistaken, are you also law enforcement? Um, or is it just Mike?
No, yeah, we got out of the Marine Corps back in 1995 and went back to Tennessee. He's from Wyoming originally, but he followed me back to Tennessee, and we got on with the Knox County Sheriff's Department, worked in corrections, and then I got hired by Maryville City PD, and then he went on to Knoxville City PD. And yeah, so yeah, we both have that background.
Man, that's awesome. I've been hearing a lot about that course, and I'm really really interested in going to it. Um, yeah, both of you are Marine Corps veterans. Both of you are law enforcement. Both of you are competitive shooters, and I think you also roll on the mats a little bit as well, right? You do a little bit of jujitsu. So
Oh yeah, yeah, I
so
got into that. Well, Mike and I were bouncers together back in Camp Lejeune area, Jacksonville, right outside of there. And he had gotten his black belt at the time through this guy Tom Mossman, and he got hired by this nightclub, and they needed another guy, and he knew me and brought me out there. But so yeah, we were in martial arts together, judo, aki jiu-jitsu, and now Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which I've been doing I think since 2017. Yeah.
man, very cool. So extremely well versed in how violence usually what violence actually looks like, and well prepared and teaching people how to deal with that. And so I've been talking to some folks about the instructor, the art of instruction, the instruction certification. And the
Mhm.
gist that I'm usually getting from that is that Mike usually handles the technical trigger pulling. But as
Mhm.
far as the mentorship, as far as the classroom work and the adult learning that occurs, I think that's usually your bag, is it not?
Yeah, and I handle most of the classroom instruction, and then when we go out onto the range, Mike puts it into action so they can actually see it. And but yeah, that's normally how it works. The firearms instructor development course that we put together initially, it was just for law enforcement groups, and we've been teaching this, I guess, since 2015, 2016, our FIDC course. And we've taught it literally everywhere from, Florida to Seattle, Portland to New Jersey, Las Cruces to Michigan. I mean, we've taught it everywhere, and we get a really good response from the course. I think the aspects of adult learning are very important. I think the things that when I was an instructor at the School of Infantry teaching on the range as a very young corporal and sergeant, I would never do those things today. The paradigm has shifted. I mean, you got to consider who your audience is, consider how they process information, and I'm not running privates anymore. These are adult learners that are there for a reason, whether they're paying a considerable amount of money out of their pocket, and I get it. There, if it's a civilian course, FIDC course, the class is not cheap, and they're flying in and they're renting hotels and they're renting rental cars. They're taking time away from their family, and we try to give them the best possible week of learning that we can. And one of the interesting things, and then I'll shut up. Memphis is we throw them to the wolves, man, right out of the gate. Uh, you're going to teach 3 classes that week. Everyone does, and you get critiqued, and there are peer evaluations and rankings, and at the end, you'll find out what your peers thought about you, and hopefully you can use that and get better.
Man, that's really where I think that I think that's a big gap in the industry, where you have instructor development courses that actually force you to teach. Like you have to teach a module and you get critiqued on that module and you have to accept that constructive criticism. Um, so
Well, I mean, let's think about this. So the first, obviously I went to the Marine Corps' TMI, Techniques of Military Instruction. And then when I got out, I went to police firearms instructor school that the NRA put on, and it was a great 1 week course. I won't say anything bad about it. At the time, this is 96, 97. It was fantastic, with one exception. It was a great shooting course. It wasn't a good teaching course, although it was a firearms instructor development course specifically geared to law enforcement. And we did a lot of really cool stuff that they did back then, which was rather innovative for the 90s. However, I think at the end of the week, Friday, right? I mean, the certificates are sitting there, everybody's ready to drive away. And they're like, "Hey, Rich, give me a class on this revolver." And I'm sitting at a desk right in front of the instructor, and I give him a little 5 minutes, and he's like, "Okay, great. Here's your certificate." And that was that. And Mike and I were like, "No, you're going to get up. You're going to teach, and we're going to know when you leave here." And I save all the records too. So if somebody has come up later and said, "Hey, Rich, my department up here in XYZ city, I'm trying to become the training chief or the training lieutenant. Do you remember me?" I'm like, "Oh," go through the files and go, "Yeah, man. Yeah, I remember you, Matt. Okay. Can you put together something, how I did and whether you would recommend me for the position?" So I've done that. I've done it for incredibly large, one of the top 5 metropolitan areas Mike and I taught. And at the end of it, they're like, this city in the department wants a review of their instructor cadre, and they're going to smoke like the bottom 2 on your list. I'm like, oh man. So yeah, it's interesting how the course has been used for stuff like that, which you wouldn't really think would happen.
yeah, that's pretty interesting. Um, so you've taught everywhere and you've done it 1,000 times. Um, what are some of the trends that you're seeing with some of these instructors? Like where are you seeing the biggest knowledge gap, so to speak?
I think that it's funny the way you ask that question, because you can know it. You say knowledge gap, right? This person could know it, but if they don't have the ability for whatever reason to stand and deliver on demand, number one, and number two, get their students to perform at a certain level that is the expected level, whatever the trick is, then it's like, it doesn't matter what knowledge you have or not. And this is something that I think is interesting too, specific to where you live. You and I are both Tennesseans, and I've lived in Memphis for years back as a kid. You had the recent horrific, I don't even know how to say it. It shocks the consciousness of what happened there with those officers. Tyree didn't deserve that.
Yeah, yeah,
It's tragic. But everybody's like, we need more training. We need more training for law enforcement. Like, no, we don't. Nowhere in the training does it say, soccer sock kicking somebody in the face when they're proned out and in handcuffs. That's ridiculous. At this point, it's just a matter for prosecution. And I say that because when I first started, Mike and I had 2 different training companies prior to him starting Shooting Performance LLC. We had a company called Close Quarters Biodynamics, where we taught defensive tactics and shooting, as well as tactics. Now we just shoot. We just teach shooting, and not the tactical consideration or the tactical application of the firearms. We leave that to somebody else because tactics are changing all the time. And I don't know if you've ever heard this, Memphis, but somebody said, a good friend of mine said, tactics are like religion. You don't find out who's right until you die, and then you know.
wow.
And I
I'm
think
gonna
he's
write
right.
that
So
down.
yeah, so I'm getting back to the idea of, we're talking about knowledge, right? And this idea that the more knowledge in the subject is going to make you better at conveying that knowledge. And that's not true. When Mike was the director of training and then ultimately the COO of the United States Shooting Academy out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I was an adjunct for them. And we brought out all these tier 1 pipe hitters. I mean, we had Delta, SEAL Team 6, FBI, HRT, Force Recon. We had all these amazing, amazing instructors. Let me back up. They were amazing shooters, not always amazing instructors, which is a huge difference. And here's what I mean by that. We brought all the guys up. We flew them all in on a Friday. We did 2 cohorts of this. They all flew in on a Friday night, got in their hotel rooms. We gave them a brief. Tomorrow morning, you're going to shoot the qual course. And then we're going to do 2 days of training and you get back on your plane. So that Saturday morning on the live fire line, it's like, wow, most of the guys there, 80, 90% were awesome. And it showed in their gun handling and shooting. They knew they were going to have a test. And then we had them stand up and deliver a 5 or 10 minute bit of material, whatever you're the subject matter expert of, man, you show me. And it was horrible. I remember one guy was just retired from CAG, and he was delivering a piece of material that he knew inside and out, but his ability to teach was not there. So I think with our firearms instructor development course, you're going to come in with whatever your department says, we're going to send Sergeant Beach to your course because, we want you to make him a good teacher. He can already shoot, we know that. And so we're just going to get him across the line. How do you convey that information in a structured manner so that people, learning will occur? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah. So that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's a really smart way to approach that.
There's 2 competing acronyms that Mike and I use. And I think we've now come up with my model for teaching was PESOS. You ever heard of this?
Mm-mm.
Okay. It's prepare, explain, show, observe, and supervise. So P for prepare would be, I'm going to prepare the learning environment. I'm going to prepare myself. I'm going to prepare my materials. I'm going to prepare in regard for safety considerations, whatever the P and prepare means to you and what you're teaching. If you're teaching the draw, you might want to make sure that your students all have the same rig, cert guns, blue guns, whatever. And then E, I'm going to explain it. Everything about it, how I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to show you how to do it. And my execution for the show, it must be perfect. If you're going to, I always say, and I think it's written in, because I wrote a chapter in Mike's book, The Art of Instruction. You can pick it up on Amazon. But I talk about, if you're going to teach somebody to climb the rope, and you and I are both Marines, the first time you probably climbed a rope in recruit training, like, oh man, I don't know if I'll be able to do that. But you watch the drill instructor do it, and you're like, okay, well, this is the art of the possible, right? He's just shown me it's doable if I use the technique that he just showed me. So that's what we're hoping to do. Show the student how to do it, and your execution must be outstanding. Then I'm going to observe. I'm going to watch you do it, giving correction when appropriate, right? And then the last S is supervise. And that's where I just have to fade back into the distance and let you rep it. Mike calls it rep it out, just repetition, build those neural pathways, get them good and thick and myelinated so that, and we say this, amateurs train until they can get it right. Professionals train until they can't get it wrong. And I'm sure you've probably heard that, but I think that's an important distinction. Yeah. I love that saying.
Yeah. Last person I heard say that was Tom Gibbons. So you're
there you go.
Excellent company. Yeah.
Yes, I am.
But I'm sorry. Keep going. Yeah, please.
No. I've had some problems with this microphone, so let me know if it starts squeaking or anything. Okay.
Okay. I will.
Mike's model is based on Fletzy's model of instruction, which is the EDIP: explain, demonstrate, imitate, practice. So what we've done, and I told Mike, I'm like, there's a glaring problem with the EDIP, because before in our FIDC, as much to the student's chagrin, we taught them pesos or EDIP, and they could choose and use whatever. I said, man, your model sucks. I don't care if it was Fletzy's, and Mike, of course, was a senior instructor at Fletzy for a long time. It says explain, demonstrate, imitate, practice, man. Where's the P? Where's the preparation? And preparation to me is everything. I mean, we've all probably been to the range, and the instructors don't have a plan. They're kind of fumbling around and like, are we supposed to be setting up targets or what? Are we supposed to be loading mags? How much are we supposed to put in a magazine? There's all this stuff going on behind the scenes, and it's terrible. It shows that they didn't have a plan. And right then you're losing me as a potential student. I'm like, oh man, I don't know that I feel safe here if this is the way that, this clown show that just showed up here. And it doesn't happen much now. People are pretty damn good, but I've attended some training that was scary. Gun handling behind the instructor, guns coming out of the holster, and I'm like, whoa, this ain't cool. And he's not correcting it.
Yeah, that
we
tells
could
me a
talk
lot.
about it does, and we could talk about this. I just mentioned it recently on our show, American Warrior Show, that what do you do when I was an instructor at a very large police department. I think it was last year, and there was some very unprofessional stuff going on with this one female officer. And I'd watched it go on all week. And I'm talking to Mike in the hotel room. I'm like, man, I don't think I can let this go on much longer. And there was a captain there, a lieutenant, a couple of sergeants. And this is their academy training cadre. And I said, I just don't like this. For one, she's the most junior person in this class. And yet these senior men are making these innuendos that are grossly unprofessional. And so finally, Thursday, they put on a presentation for us for our critique. And I said, okay, everything's on the table, right? I'll ask the leadership, the corporals and sergeants, Captain, sir, do you have anything you want to say to these officers before I give them my critiques? Like, no, go ahead. I'm like, okay. And I just unloaded. Like, this is unprofessional. This is unacceptable. And they took it like they should. But I'm like, it's not my job to give a professional ass chewing. I was a Marine for 23 years. I was an officer for 10. And I mean, I can do it. I don't want to do it. It's not my place. But also, Memphis, I think, I'm responsible also for not only for my conduct, but for the conduct that I allow to go on in my presence. And I think that to me is kind of like the Tyree situation. Somebody should have tackled that guy as soon as he kicked the first time. Tyree would be alive. I mean, we can single out Tyree, but I mean, that's just close to home for you and I here in Tennessee. And it makes law enforcement have a bad light, because law enforcement does need to use force, and using force is ugly, man. It is never pretty to see a law enforcement officer use any level of force beyond a harsh word. And even sometimes the harsh words are, they shock the consciousness. What did he just call that guy? Did that cop just call somebody a MFer? What?
Yeah. So, man, that's excellent. Yeah. I'm sorry. I just like that was it such a good answer to those questions, and it brings up a lot of really really interesting thoughts. That's good stuff. It's good to ponder stuff like that. Not just
Can I keep
it's
pondering
not
it?
just about, absolutely. Yeah, let's keep pondering it because like whenever I see stuff like that happen in my presence, it burns up the soul. It forces
Yes.
us to choose like which side we're going to be on. Am I going to be that guy that stands by and does nothing, or am I going to be that guy that's so?
Yeah, I had this philosophical conversation, because we're talking about in the FIDC, we're talking about human communications, right? And I have to be able to communicate to you in a way that not only am I understood, but you can't misunderstand what I'm saying, right? It's one thing to go, I think I know what Rich is talking about. No, it's crystal clear. You cannot mishear what I'm saying. So the question we were pondering was, we were teaching a group of senior federal agents. As a matter of fact, the agent in charge of that entire department's firearms training program came up and attended the course, which and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna teach the same stuff I always do. And in my personal life, I may use colorful language, 4-letter words, whatever. You know, I was a Marine like you, man. We do that sometimes, but I don't do it on the platform unless, you know, I'm never going to say never. There is a time and a place. So somebody asked me at the end, it's about Thursday night, and they said we we're doing some Q&A. Is it ever appropriate to use foul language? I said, well, let me throw it back on you guys. And the head of the program was like, never, not in a million years. I'm like, okay, take it away from the platform in a professional setting as a law enforcement officer or wherever. Is it ever appropriate? And this gentleman said, never, no. And he's a former Marine too. And I have the utmost respect for this man. If he's listening, I love you, bro. You know, I do. He's like, I don't think it ever is. I said, so let's pull this thread a little bit further. Because this carried on from there until dinner and drinks later on, and he and I were sitting together and I said, so you would burn somebody down, take away from them all they've got now, all they're ever going to have by taking their life. You would do that, but you would not say, hey, MF, or show me your MF in hands. He's like, no, I wouldn't. I would just shoot him. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't resonate with that. And we just had to, at the end of the night, his Christian whatever wouldn't allow him to use foul language, but he had no problem taking another human being's life. And I said, well, to me, I said, it's like manos arriba. And he goes like this. I said, oh, you speak Spanish? He said, yeah, I was a Spanish linguist in the military, Marine Corps. And I said, okay, so you understand. When I confront someone, I need to be able to speak their language, something they're going to understand. And if with this Arabic, you know, Wakif or Manos Arriba, Spanish, or here in Tennessee, show me your freaking hands. You know, I have to speak the lingo because I don't want to take anybody's life. You know, I don't ever want to do that. You know, I've done things like that in combat. That's my job. But if I have a choice now as a 53-year-old man, I don't want to do it, especially if I can use a little bit of colorful language or use my body in a way that conveys something to somebody, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reading this book called Verbal Judo by Dr. George Thompson. And, you know, it talks a lot about stuff like that. So it's really interesting. And I'm seeing a
I've
lot
never
of that in.
Well, what are you learning from it? Because the de-escalation piece is grossly missing from our community, I think.
I think so too. There's a parallel that he makes where, you know, the officers that were involved in the Dr. King incident, they were signed up for a verbal judo class the next week. And so if they had only taken that class, I mean, it's easy to think that that night might have been different. And I can't help but make the parallels between that and the Tyree Nichols situation that happened just recently. And you know, it makes me. I know they're going to be different because that whole situation just kind of stinks of, you know, personal, and there's a lot of stuff that, you know, we don't know yet, but it's going to come out in the next weeks and months. But you know, as far as like talking someone's language, um, that being able to communicate things in a way that they're going to personally relate to it, not just understand it, but personally relate to it, and that it invokes voluntary compliance. Um, I see a lot of parallels between that and, the teaching styles that are most effective when it comes to adult learning. So, just not just getting people to voluntarily comply, but getting future instructors to relate that in a way that students will start to understand what they need to understand. So that is that what you're seeing in your classes, or like is there? I know it's a complex question, but
Oh, It's a,
I
it's a, it's a great question. It's a great question. I mean, because I look at it like we used to say, I want to make compelling support statements. If I'm teaching you a technique, I want to support the technique with relevant features and benefits, right? And the word compelling is important because compelling means that you take action, right? And I also have to know that if I'm selling you a technique, let's use the way Mike grips a handgun is relatively unique, right? He pushes on the back strap of the gun with both palms, and it's hard to. I mean, the guy's multiple time world champion, national champion. You can't argue it obviously works, and it works not just in the proofs in the pudding, but it also works from a physics standpoint. If you consider where the inertia is moving on that weapon. And if you put it here, we've had mechanical engineers in the class, and like, you tell me, man, is this where it should be? Like, well, yeah. And but anyway, so I need to be able to give compelling support statements to my technique. I need to understand the features and benefits of the technique, and then I need to be able to explain those in a way that drives you and compels you to take answer. Now, part of that is you need to understand more so than just, hey, I heard this guy on the internet and he told me that this is the way you hold a gun. Really? Because that won't hold up to, you won't be able to supply any intellectual rigor to defend that argument if you just saw some guy on the internet and this is how he said to hold that gun. You need to understand the technique inside and out. You need to understand its merits and its detractors. And when somebody goes, yeah, but why not do it this way? And if you've never considered it, now you're going to be sitting there flat footed in front of 20 people that spent a lot of money to be there. Like, I don't know. And one of the things that we'll do is, Mike will act like he's never heard that before. Really? Okay. Well, let's try it. Let's try this. And everybody come around and even though, it's theater, but here again, I think an instructor needs to be a good actor. And we talk about this, like, well, that's not my style, Rich. I'm like, bro, you're an actor when you're up here. Because do you feel comfortable up there? No, I'm nervous. Okay, good. Then you're acting like you're confident. And then at some point, you won't have to act confident anymore because you will have this confidence brought about by a deep well of confidence. And I think and the only way you're going to know is you're going to have to do it and do it and do it and do it and fail and fail and fail and get verbally punched in your face by your peers in a very loving and constructive way until it gets around. But I want to touch on this idea of features and benefits, because we do talk about this in our FIDC course. Are you familiar with features and benefits?
I am not. Let's go over it. Would you mind?
Okay. No, yeah, man. So let's say that, and I've got some pens here on my desk. I'll grab this one. So a feature of this pen, people that are watching us will see that I'm holding a fountain pen. Now, one of the features is it has this little clicky thing on the end of it, and it extends and retracts the ball point. This is a black pen. So a feature of this pen is that it's black ink, that it has a retractable top, and that it has this little clip. So we'll just say those three things. Those are features. They don't really necessarily mean anything. That's just the way this pen is. Now let's talk about what's important. And this is what a lot of instructors don't understand, and that's the WIFM. What's in it for me? As a student coming to your class, what's in it for me? Why should I grip the gun hard? And you may think, well, hell, Rich, everybody knows why you need to grip the gun hard. Okay, great. Why do you need to grip the gun hard? And they talk them on to target that. Well, that way that if I'm gripping the gun really hard, then the gun will snap back onto target and I'll be able to make quicker follow-on shots. Why is being faster in a gunfight? Why do you care about that? And then, of course, you let them have that aha moment, right? But back to the pen. This is where we're at here. Features and benefit is answers the question, what's in it for me? So what? So this little thing, this little clip on the side here is so that I can put it in my shirt and clip it and it won't go anywhere, so that I can retrieve it when I need it. The fact that it's black, you and I both know from the Marine Corps, you can't use blue ink. You have to use black ink. So
That's right.
I couldn't sell a blue ink pen to a Marine if I tried. It had to be black. And the fact that you can retract the ballpoint means that I won't get it on this lovely cashmere sweater that my bride got me for Christmas, because the ballpoint has been retracted. So I say all that to say, when I went to the United States Shooting Academy, one of the things that I made all of our sales and instructors, we sit down and broke down every technique. Let's talk about this technique. Why do we carry our magazine pouch where we carry it? Why do we carry it bullets forward toward the belly button? Why do we have this here? Why is this piece of kit there? Why is the rifle set up like this? And you need to understand the features and benefits of each one and how you convey that in a way that's compelling for the student. Because, and I always use myself as an example, man. I'm a Scots-Irish guy from the hills of East Tennessee. I learned how to shoot from my father and his grandfather and so on, all the way back to, the Western Isles of Scotland. So why is that important? Because if I come to your course and Memphis, you go, where the hell did you learn that technique? That's the dumbest shit I ever saw. You just insulted me, my whole family. I'm shut down. So how do we communicate it in a way that you go, Rich, that's an interesting technique there. Tell me about it. What do you do like that? Well, and it's very non-confrontational. We're both on a discovery together, if you will. And something I found. Do you mind? Would you try this for me? You see how I'm acting like I'm thinking. I'm acting, right? And sure, I'd be willing to try that. And then you come up and you go, I took some split times, Rich, while you were doing your technique. I don't know. Do you have a second? Let's talk about this. You were averaging a 2.25 draw to fire from concealment. Using my technique, I don't know if you realize it, brother, but you're down to 1.85, man. Would it be important for you to have faster following shots? Yeah, of course it would. Okay. Then what I would challenge you with, man, is why don't you keep doing what I keep repping it out? I think you'll see those times go down farther. And that way you never insult me. You never insult my family. You taught me and proved it to me. And now I'm compelled to rep it out on my own after I leave you, so that the learning sticks.
That's extremely effective. So,
I hope,
because it doesn't create like this adversarial relationship. You're just helping him discover what was already in him.
And we've probably all heard the horror stories of instructors that, where'd you get that piece of junk holster? Give me that thing. And they throw it over the berm. And that's the stupidest gun I ever saw. And, it's just like, what are you doing, man? You're not a freaking 21-year-old corporal at Camp Lejeune anymore. Don't do that. Don't do that, because that won't play well with me. I'm just going to tell you right now. And I had a student one time that during their teach back was very confrontational with me when I was role playing a student. So at the end of our FIDC course, they have to give a 1-hour period of instruction, and they have a co-facilitator. Mike and I will stay in the room, say, hey, you come up to us and tell us what you want to teach for your 1-hour block, and we'll approve the 1-hour block. And this is a funny, interesting thing. Memphis, they'll come up and they'll go, okay, here's what I want to do. I'm going to do the 5-2-1 drill. 5-2-1 drill, what's that? Well, we're going to fire 5 rounds, and they'll go through this whole crazy thing. And we're like, what skill are you teaching? Well, it's the 5-2-1 drill. I'm like, I don't know. No. Drills reinforce skills. What skill are you trying to teach? And they have no clue. I'm like, okay, go away. Go figure out what you're trying to teach, and then come back up here. And then they'll come back. Okay, the 5-2-1 drill is going to teach this skill, and then we're going to rep it out with this drill. All right, now we're getting somewhere. But I think our community is so jazzed by the latest ninja drill. It's like, Well, this ninja drill, man, this is the coolest thing in the world. You print off the PDF, you stick it up at the 5 yard line, and you load 25 rounds in 2 magazines, whatever, okay, what the hell are we doing this for? Just to make a lot of noise and smoke and pat ourselves in the back and post some shit on Instagram? And if that's what we're doing, let's just be honest with ourselves. That's what we're doing, man. And then we're going to go drink a beer, have some coffee, and talk shit. Okay, great. I'm down with that. I'm down with that. But if we're really trying to develop skills that we can use later, maybe there's a better way. And I'm not saying it's not with the greatest ninja drill, whatever that it may be. We've all heard it. I've done it, guilty. But I think we need to understand that we're trying to develop skills with our students and with ourselves. And what are the relevance of those skills?
That's incredibly insightful. Um, so so that right there, let's pivot just a little bit. Um,
Sure.
that's incredibly insightful. And so if you want more of this stuff, then you can. I highly encourage you to step into a class with Rich Brown and Mike Seeklander. Take their instructor development course. Read the book, Art of Instruction. It's on my bookshelf right now. I'm still working through it. And listen to the podcast. You got the American Warrior Show. And let's talk a little bit about the American Warrior Show for a second. Would you mind? Um,
Sure.
and the I know it's
And
kind of a
just so
chunky sub.
just
Yeah.
I was just going to say, we currently, I think on the books this year, 2023, we have 2 open enrollment FIDC courses. One is in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and I think that one's in October. And then we have one in Michigan in June or July. I can't remember. It's on Shooting Dash Performance. What's that? I'm sorry, Memphis. You were saying the American Warrior Show.
No. That's good stuff. Um, Yeah, so the American Warrior Show, that's one of my favorite podcasts. And this was the inspiration for this podcast that you're listening to right now. My very first interview on any podcast was with Rich Brown right here. And so part of the reason why I listened to, that Warrior, the American Warrior Show is because they talk a lot about not just personal safety and your, accepting responsibility for your own personal safety and the safety of your family, but also just other topics that we're seeing in the world. Just I'm talking disaster preparedness. I'm talking just there's politics, but not for the sake of like red versus blue. It's more about like just stuff that we're seeing in the political sphere and how it relates to us as on a very personal and community level. Rich, can you tell me a little bit more about some of the stuff that you guys talk about on the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we've interviewed, all the heavyweights in our community. Jocko Willick, Kyle Lamb, Pat McNamara. I mean, anybody and everybody who's known in our space, we talked to them, and we've talked to everybody in between. All the way down to me, all the way up to them, and everybody and anybody in between. Anybody that will sit down with me or Mike, we're always interested to hear the thoughts and opinions, because I think that no one person has the answer. Not me, not Mike, not you. But collectively, maybe we together can come up with something as a workable solution. Now, the American Warrior Show, as you've said, we talk a little bit about disaster preparedness and things of that nature, because when I left the Marine Corps, I went to work for the American Red Cross. And at the beginning, all I wanted was a very low profile job. So I was disaster relief director for 4 counties in Tennessee. And then they did some restructuring, and the Red Cross was in some significant financial problems. So they fired half the Tennessee staff, the paid staff, and I got a promotion to run the entire state of Tennessee as the regional manager for disaster preparedness. And in that position, I got a backstage pass to how FEMA and TEMA and the Red Cross and all the other cats and dogs, if you will, how they come together to solve some of these problems. And one of the things I learned, Memphis, was you better be prepared to self-rescue because, I mean, I'll give you an example. I'm in a high-level meeting, won't say where or whatever, it doesn't matter. But Tima and FEMA and everybody was there, and we were kind of brainstorming because you live on a fault line. You live in Memphis, and there's as you know, a fault line. And the last time that thing went off was in the 1800s, and it caused the Mississippi River to run backwards and created a real foot lake. But when it happened back then, there was none of the infrastructure that you have right now in Memphis. It was some farmland, right? And it was not a big deal. However, today, if that were to happen, and you would lose the Hernando de Soto Bridge and sever that link with Arkansas and all the other links moving that way. So Memphis would be almost like a little island, where the main road would be 40 heading eastbound because the westbound lanes would be severed. So we're talking like, what do we do? And I'm not kidding you, man. The answer was, the consensus answer was, we just get on Interstate 40 and start setting up shelters and just literally waving people out of the city. And I'm like, that's it? Well, so we could drop leaflets and tell them to head east on I-40. I'm like, my God, man. You're talking about, I don't know if 1 million people live in the greater Shelby County area, but it's probably pretty damn large. And the needs, we can look at Katrina too, right? As far as what happened and what did not happen. So be prepared to self-rescue. And one of the things that we talk about on the American Warrior Show is disaster preparedness. What is a disaster? It could be a tsunami. It could be an earthquake like they're experiencing right now in Syria and Turkey. It could be a financial tsunami, right? One of the things we talk a lot about is economics. We just had a balloon fly over. What was the purpose of the Chinese balloon? Well, I don't know what it was, and you don't know what it was. Could it be a dry run for some sort of biological delivery device? I don't know. Could it be some sort of cyber delivery device? Could it be an EMP, magnetic pulse weapon that they're doing a dry run? I have no idea. And I'm not asking anybody to be paranoid about it. I'm just saying be prepared. Be as prepared as you can be with the resources that you have. You don't need to be paranoid. Enjoy your life. I'm certainly going to enjoy mine, do the things that bring me happiness, and you should too. However, if you don't have, if you don't have enough water for a few weeks, and if you don't have enough food for a month or two, you might want to do something about that.
Wise words. Wise words. Yeah, because like a lot of people think of, preparedness as like doomsday preppers, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's not really even about that. Like, even just in the last couple of years, we've seen, COVID lockdowns. We've seen, windstorms that knocked out power for 4 days. We see, ice storms where, um, people can't get on the roads, and your local Kroger isn't going to have the supplies that you need. So, I mean, just stocking up just a little bit, just shopping around for an electric generator, like stuff like that is so incredibly simple, and still we don't do it enough.
Yeah,
So
don't expect to have it what's interesting about it, and I've said it on the show before, the mantra for the Red Cross was, all disasters local. And that's, you can raise donated dollars with that phrase, like, hey man, all disasters local. We need you to donate to the American Red Cross, and we can buy sheltering equipment and things of this nature for your local community. But it also has another meaning, and that is that normally you can drive out of the disaster. So, for example, I live up here on the Cumberland Plateau in Tennessee, and if there's a disaster up here, I can drive north to Kentucky. I can drive south toward Chattanooga, toward Knoxville, Nashville. I got options. But what if there was an EMP? You cannot drive out of the disaster. Or it's a financial problem. You can't drive out of it, or a cyber attack. you can't drive out of it. So those are the ones that you probably need to put your mind toward and figure out, what do you need. And a lot of people's like, well, I got my bug out bag. Rich, I'm going to throw it in my truck and I'm going to, where are you going, man? Where are you going? Well, I'm going to get my truck and go where? Because sometimes, whether it's a wildfire in California or whatever, a winter weather disaster, you can't drive out because there's trees across the road. Your best option is to bug in. But if you don't have supplies in your home, then of course you're automatically going to think, I got to get out of here. I got to bug out. But all you're going to do is suck up resources. I know this from being responsible for disaster relief operations and I can't even tell you how many shelters I was managing through. And it was a nightmare because the shelters are amazing. Don't get me wrong. The Red Cross workers, the nurses and doctors that work in the shelters are phenomenal. However, they're normally going to help the lowest common denominator, the elderly, the sick, the people that were already in pretty bad trouble in their lifestyle already. And now they find themselves in a shelter. So you and I and people probably listen to us, we don't want to be in a shelter, man. And if you start bugging out and you get on the road, that's where you're going to find yourself. You're going to be diverted to a shelter and you're not going to like it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't relish that thought. But yeah, like this right here, Rich's podcast, man, that's a must. Like if you're listening to this podcast, I highly recommend you also subscribe to that one because they're having some really good conversations over there. Excellent stuff. So, Rich, we're almost out of time on here. Tell you what, when if people want to reach out to you or to Mike Seeklander or to the folks at the American Warrior Society, where can folks find you? How can we get a hold of you?
Oh yeah, easy, man. AmericanWarriorSociety.com, AmericanWarriorShow.com. You can hit me up with we're on iTunes. We're everywhere you can find podcast, the American Warrior Show. But we also have the American Warrior Society. We have hundreds of free articles written by, former FBI agents, CIA operatives, military guys and gals, current and former law enforcement, BJJ, defensive tactics trainers, everybody and anybody, as well as me and Mike, that have written for the American Warrior Society. But we also have this thing called the Training Vault, which as a member, it's where all of our training programs are. We have single and two-man room clearing, vehicle tactics, if it's just you and your vehicle and you get attacked, or if it's you and your significant other, whether they're armed or unarmed. We're going to walk you through all that stuff, teach you shotgun, handgun, less lethal, low light. We walk you through white belt to blue belt, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You're going to learn all the techniques that are there, edge weapons. It's all there, man. And again, I get it. YouTube is free and you get what you pay for. And that's the challenge, I think, for a lot of people is separating the wheat from the chaff, and we're not as entertaining as Demolition Ranch. You and I were talking about it in the pre-show. And I do watch that kind of stuff from time to time because it's entertaining. It's fun to find out, well, what happened if you chuck a grenade in a safe? What's it going to do? Hell, I don't know. I want to watch. Or what happens if you want to shoot, 40 Kevlar vests with a 50 caliber rifle? That's fun. I'm not ever going to do that. So I encourage you to go check them out, whoever those folks are on YouTube. But we have a very mature, reasoned, well-seasoned approach toward self-defense, self-protection, brought out by a very long career. Mike Seeklander, if you're not familiar, he's a national and world champion shooter. He's also the guy that's headed up the Air Marshals program firearm shooting course after 9/11 and was a FLETC instructor and ran the United States Shooting Academy, etc. And of course, I was 23 years in the Marine Corps, I've taught at multiple locations and led a mobile training team and also with the Red Cross, etc. So we have a long career in law enforcement, military, and we'd love to have you as a listener if you're not already.
Excellent. Are you guys on socials? I know you're on Facebook. Do you do anything
Facebook,
else?
Instagram, although I don't do much on Instagram and I really don't do much on Facebook anymore. I've pulled back a lot of that because it was sucking up my time and I couldn't see the reason for it. Again, I'm not entertaining anybody. Uh, so we're just providing information, trying to make it entertaining, but that's not really the goal. The goal is to really kind of like what you said, Memphis, in the pre-show. I want to put people in front of you that, you may have never heard of a guy named Todd Fox. Multiple times, they got 3 different black belts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Pan Am champion, who was Madonna and Guy Ritchie's bodyguard for years. Now he owns a company called Tor Protection, former Marine, former cop. And he's one of those guys that for the last 20 or 30 years, he's been behind the scenes protecting most people you've heard about. And we bring him in to talk about the books he's written and the techniques, tactics, and procedures that he used. And I just use him as one example because he's texting me right now. I'm seeing it go off here, so I got to respond to it. But and just like you do with bringing me on today, and I really appreciate it, Memphis. I appreciate what you're doing, and the plan that you have for this platform that you've created is a good one. And if I can support you anyway, I hope you know that I will.
I surely appreciate it. Thank you so much. Rich, I want to just thank you so much for your time. All of these socials and these websites and links and stuff, I'm going to put those in the description for the podcast. So anywhere you're listening or viewing this podcast, you'll see the stuff in the description. Reach out to Rich Brown and the American Warrior Society. Rich, thanks again for coming on today, man. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, brother. Anytime. Always happy.
And also, if you're listening or if you're watching, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate your time. You could have spent your time doing anything, and you're spending it with us, listening to us. I just want to let you know how much we appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Welcome to Memphis.